Welcome to the Purity After Promiscuity podcast, where we are redefining a woman's worth. I am your host, Janelle Renee, and here we are. And let me tell you guys, we are in for some surprises today, okay? And so I just want to say happy holidays. I know we just are coming past the Christmas holiday. We're entering into New Year's. This is a season of endings, new beginnings, transitioning, shifting. And so there's a lot going on. But you guys, I think you're going to be in for a treat because I have some news, okay? And so we're going to get into it right after we release our countdown. Oh, first, before we do that, I am so sorry. Let me say welcome to all my little listeners. Welcome. And I appreciate you guys so much, even for hanging with me with all of my inconsistencies, transitions, my belabored moments of rest and time without coming in to see you guys like I normally do and should. But for those that still are downloading and streaming and supporting this podcast, I really thank you so much. I couldn't do it without you. And for my new listeners, those are coming in for the first time, welcome. This is a community where we are looking to be holistically whole. We are redefining our worth and walking in our true identity, our true purpose, right? Walking unapologetically and boldly as the women of God that He created us to be. And so I am super excited for each and every one of you guys. I hope you guys are in a comfortable place. I hope that you're ready to really receive, right, what I feel like the Lord has really put on my heart and the direction I feel like we're going on this podcast. So I'm going to release the countdown and we will get into it.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys. Like I said, we have some surprises today, and I think it's good. I hope you guys think it's good as well. But this podcast today is called Transparency to Transition. And I'm naming it that because that's exactly it. That's exactly where I'm at. And I believe that as much as I've tried to create this podcast to be something that it's not, I believe that the reason why I'm not sticking to it, the reason why I tend to disregard it or I don't put in 100% is because I really wasn't clear on what I should be doing, right? And I mean, it's obvious that the title is Purity After Promiscuity, right? But it's only so much purity after promiscuity you can talk about. And we've hit so many points. I've been on since 2021. We have like 7 seasons. So it's been a lot of, healing. It's been a lot of talking about overcoming the burden of past trauma, sexual abuse, traumatic experiences in childhood, different, places where you might have experienced rejection, abandonment, all kind of things, right? And so we've talked about a lot. And with that, I just felt that maybe the direction the podcast need to go is something different. So I started talking about finances. And while finances, I think, is an absolutely necessary conversation, I think one of the main reasons why people, particularly in the community of color, when you look at Black and brown people, we are constantly fighting an uphill battle because we lack knowledge, right? We lack the financial literacy. We lack the financial education. We lack the financial experience to be able to obtain wealth, right? Or success in the form of wealth. And so one of the things that I think the conversation is necessary, but maybe this is just not the podcast for that. And so I am going to pivot. And pivoting is okay, right? I'm going to pivot the podcast. I know this last season we've been talking about femininity and finances. And I think it is, like I said, an important conversation. It's just not the conversation for this podcast. Moving forward, this podcast is just going to focus on all things healing. When it comes to being holistically whole, different avenues, different nuances, different layers, healing is so just a insurmountable journey, because it's not never a total arrival. And what I mean by that, yes, we can heal, we can become healed, and we can become whole, but then there will be areas that we still have to work on, because we might get offended. Somebody might hurt us again. We might get, rejected again, and it might trigger us or bring up that old wound, or, we're constantly evolving, and we're never going to become fully until Christ return, and we are then put on our righteous garments, right? And we are in eternity. As long as we're in this fallen world, we'll have something that we might need to heal from. And it may not take us down a spiral, right? Because we are healed, but it may trigger us, right? It may cause us to, recognize that wound isn't completely healed like we thought. And so healing can be talked about in every which way possible, and so I believe that as I have been navigating these last couple weeks that I've been off work because I got injured, and because of what I do, I work a job, I have a career where I use my physical hand, wrist, extremities to perform my services. I'm in the beauty industry, so because I hurt my wrist, I'm no longer able to do that. Temporarily, I've had to take time off. I had to allow my hand and wrist to heal so that I am able to go back to doing all of my daily activity, including working. So that has given me a lot of time to reflect, to just slow down, to be still, right? To rest, to hear from the Lord, to reflect, and so many things. And in that, I really just got inspired because I was just watching a podcast of, I don't even really know who she is, if I'm honest. I don't even remember how her podcast came across my algorithm on YouTube, but it did. And based on the title alone, I was very intrigued. So I began watching her podcast, and yes, I'm glad I did, because it was so informative. It brought me so much confirmation, so much language to things I have been dealing with, and it gave me some revelation I knew nothing about, and so it was so good. But one of the things she just has said as she was in this particular episode, she was talking about, because that episode that I was just watching and the previous episodes on her particular podcast, they had been speaking about the firstborn daughter. And that's what really it really pulled my attention, because I'm a firstborn daughter. And up until this point, I never heard nobody explicitly have a conversation around a firstborn daughter. We live in a patriarchal system. And so more times than not, you hear a lot of conversation about the firstborn son, and by rightfully so, but I never heard the conversation about a firstborn daughter. So as I've listened to these podcasts, and baby, let me tell you, it has been mind-blowing. But when I say it has been on point, I mean, it's giving me revelation, and like I said, confirmation, affirmation. It is giving me language, it is giving me understanding for a lot of things, and it's really blowing my mind, honestly. And so it's so good. I can't remember what her podcast is called offhand. I will try to get it before I do the description box and link it in the description box for anybody who's interested in watching it. But she was talking about, how the Lord told her to start a podcast. And she was saying, has she not been healed enough when the Lord gave her that instruction? Because one of the behaviors of a firstborn daughter is the need for control. And that's a huge one that I've been dealing with here recently a lot, because the Lord really has been highlighting that for me in so many different areas. My need for control. So she was saying how had the Lord told her to start a podcast prior to her being healed, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, that she would have what she said was, if the Lord would have told her that she would be on her platform with the person she had on her platform having that particular discussion, had he told her that when he originally told her to start the podcast, she probably would have never did it, or because she would have had so many questions, or she would have needed to know all the steps and all the answers of how it was going to happen, when it was going to happen, because that need to control would kick in. She was like, but actually, when the Lord told her to start the podcast, she had no idea where she would end up. She just obeyed. And that convicted me so heavily, because as I sat there in that moment and thought to myself, like, wow, the Lord gave me that same instruction. He said, start a podcast. And then he also gave me the title, Purity After Promiscuity. If you've listened to any of my previous episodes, y'all know that's not the title I chose. I would have never chosen that. I wouldn't have been healed enough, especially in 2021, to have chosen a title saying Purity After Promiscuity, because I wouldn't want it to have to imply that I used to be promiscuous, right? It's embarrassing. It's shameful. So it wasn't something that I wanted to do. And I really had a lot of contention, and I really wanted to try to barter with the Lord on at least a different title, right? But that's what he said, so I did it. However, he gave me one instruction. He said, restore my daughters. Okay? That's all he said. And I think that I took that for granted. Or what I can say is, I think that didn't sound elaborate, right? It didn't sound, all deep and all, like just life changing and life altering, right? It was just very simple, restore my daughters. And because I really didn't understand like what he really meant by that and what that looked like, and I also didn't really like feel like that was something that I wanted to or could really talk about, like, because I just had so many unanswered questions, you know what I mean? Like, and then again, I struggle with control. So because the information that I needed or wanted to know in the moment, he didn't really give me, that I just didn't take it as serious as I should have. And so while I did start and I was a little more consistent and committed over time, right? Over time, I literally just started fading and falling away from the consistency, from showing up, and if I'm honest, I do a poor job of marketing. Like, I don't even tell people I have a podcast. I don't market it. I don't make clips. I don't use AI to, get, clips out and blurbs. And I don't do what it takes to even get it in front of people. And I know that I have had some phenomenal episodes and I've had some great guests, and yet and still I found that I have not been promoting the podcast like I should. I guess in some way I assumed, because God told me to do it, that he was going to just bring the people. And while that may be true, there is still a part I have to play. I still have to partner with him. And I didn't realize that until she just said that simple statement about how when the Lord told her to start her podcast. And here she is on this platform on YouTube, and they do video, I do audio only. I did do some video that I only could transfer over to audio, but they're doing live recordings, and I don't know exactly how many subscribers she has, but I know it's a lot, because again, this is a new podcast that has come across my algorithm. I see podcasts almost daily, different people, different podcasts, men, women, podcasts on all kind of things. And so I'm not really moved by a podcast, to be honest, but this podcast really spoke to a place. It spoke to something in me that I didn't even know needed to be spoken to. It gave me language for things that I just been struggling trying to, articulate. It's given me revelation and understanding about so many aspects of myself and my journey and my life, that it has left me with like, Lord, oh my gosh, like, now what? Now what's the next steps? What do I do next, God? What does this mean? And it's liberating and it's exciting, and it's also bringing a lot of sadness, because it's like, wow, now I know I'm not the only one, but the fact that life has been so challenging, it's been so difficult, it's been so much warfare, it's been so much, resistance, that it makes me a little, sad about that. So nevertheless, I believe that I just really did not take this assignment serious, and I did not handle it with the priority and with the commitment and with the excellence like I should have, because I didn't think it was that serious. I didn't feel like it was that deep. I didn't think like it was a big deal, right? And I have really realized that I failed God because I didn't obey. I partially obeyed, and partial obedience is disobedience. Like, I partially obeyed because, okay, fine, I started it, right? I did a few seasons. I've kind of been, sticking with it, even though, like I said, over time it's gotten less and less. That's not good enough, because the Bible is clearly tells us that we do everything as unto the Lord, right? We do everything with the spirit of excellence and to the best of our ability with what we have. And I haven't done that with this podcast. So I have to repent to the Lord, but I want to also apologize to you all as the listeners and the women who really needed my voice and really needed me to come on and bring healing and restoration to you guys, and just focus and stay the course of what God told me to do. And I got lost. I got lost in self. I got lost in my circumstances. I got lost in my pain. I got lost in my disappointment, right? I got lost in my unanswered prayers. I got lost in, the struggles and all of the challenges, the obstacles, and all of the things that I was going through. And I guess I felt that gave me validation to put the assignment that God gave me on the back burner. But then I have these other things that I put before the thing that I know God told me to do. And I'm asking God to bless these other things, but not once have I asked God to even help me with the podcast, to bring it to the place he really wants it to be. Not once have I asked him to bless the podcast. Not once have I been really going to him and asking for more clarity and instruction and, strategy on how to get in front of the right people, or how to market the podcast, or how to, like, not one time. I just focus on other things that I feel is more beneficial to me, right? Things like that are going to produce income, or things that I feel more interested in, right? Y'all, this is why this podcast is called Transparency to Transition. Because the truth is, I don't stay the course with the podcast because I don't see the real benefit of the podcast, right? More times than not, I don't know who I'm speaking to. More times than not, I don't know if anybody is watching the episode or not. More times than not, I'm not gaining any followers and subscribers and all of those things, because I'm really not showing up for real. I'm not really putting it out there either. And so I don't even know how I expect to have any success or to see growth, right, when I'm not like even marketing. Like, that's bananas. But nevertheless, I feel the conviction, because I'm like, Lord, this is something I know you told me to do. This is an assignment you gave me, and I'm not stewarding it well. And I'm not, and the realization of the reason why I'm kind of all over the place with seasons and topics and stuff is because I just wasn't really clear on what Restore His Daughters look like. And not to say that I have all the answers now. What I am saying is becoming more clear that as I am on this journey to become holistically whole, He's wanted me to bring you guys along that journey. And even if this podcast turns into me literally making episodes on what God is revealed to me in the moment, where God has shown me I'm still wounded, where God is showing me what really is in my heart, or how he's showing me areas of my life that I still haven't surrendered, or whatever that looked like as he's taken me on a journey to become whole. I think the reality that I have come to is he wants me to just get on and invite you guys along that journey. And that's that. It's that simple. And I don't have to try to figure it all out. And I don't have to try to have this whole elaborate, strategy, that I don't have to try to, make up topics for seasons that sound more like clickbait or sound more like people would be interested in, versus just being myself. Right? Just being honest, just being open, just being transparent on how God is redefining my worth, how the Lord is helping me walk in my true identity, how he's really shaping and molding me for destiny and purpose, how he is healing me and growing me, right? How he is, preparing me for the things that he has for me, and that process, and the pruning and the crushing and the building and all the things, right? Because when we think of healing, it takes all of that. Healing is not necessarily pretty, excuse me. Like if you get injured, right? Like say you, cut yourself, right? 9 times out of 10, immediately you cut yourself, you notice you cut yourself, okay, you might go and get a cotton ball or some kind of tissue paper, and you might want to stop the bleeding. Like that's the first step. Let me stop the bleeding. So as we're healing, more times than not, we just been bleeding all over the place. Bleeding like the woman with the issue of blood, bleeding trauma, bleeding woundedness, bleeding, abuse, bleeding, anxiety, bleeding fear, bleeding depression, bleeding, right? We're bleeding all over the place. So the first course of action, the first step is let's stop the bleeding. How do you stop the emotional bleeding? How do you stop the mental bleeding? How do you stop the spiritual bleeding, right? You got to first figure out where is the blood coming from, right? You got to identify the source of the wound. Like where is it at, right? What happened? What is the event, right? And then you got to get something to stop the bleeding. Right? So maybe you need to go to some kind of inner healing service. Maybe you need to go to grief recovery. Maybe you need to go to counseling or therapy. Maybe you need to go talk to your pastor or leader. Maybe you need to just sit with the Lord. Always sit with the Lord, right? Maybe it's prayer and fasting, right? But how are you to stop the bleeding? And then after you stop the bleeding, right, the next thing you want to do, now you want to put something on it to help it to begin the healing process. So you might get you some triple antibiotic ointment, or you might get some Neosporin or something like that, because you're like, okay, not only do I want to stop the bleeding and promote healing, but I want to protect it. Because since it's a cut, that means I'm open. Right? That means this is an area where I'm vulnerable. I'm exposed, right? So you want to put something on it to protect it, to keep things from getting inside. And then after you put the antibiotic ointment on, then you want to get a Band-Aid. You want to bandage it up, right? Because once you put the antibiotic ointment on it, it's going to protect it. It's going to help it to start healing. Is some of that have numbing agents in it? It'll help stop the pain. And then you want to cover it. Right? Because you want to make sure nothing that is foreign is going to get in, because it'll get infected, right? It's a process. It's not pretty. You go through that, and then once you've covered it up, at some point you got to uncover it, let it get some air. It needs to start scabbing up, because that's the body's natural way of protecting itself, a natural way of healing itself. So it begins to get a scab. The scab can be ugly, right? The scab can be big. Right? The scab can be hard, but it's all about it's all promoting healing though. And then once the scab falls off, it still might have a little scar. So now you might put some vitamin E oil, you might put some cocoa butter to help the color to come back, right? To help it to heal completely and also not look like there was ever a injury, right? And it's like that's the process of healing. You got to go through all those steps because the goal is to be so healed that it doesn't seem like you ever was injured in the first place. It doesn't seem like you ever had trauma. It doesn't seem like you ever were wounded. It doesn't seem like you ever were broken. It's like you're completely healed. And even if someone does something to hurt you, you don't take it personal. You can process it in a healthy way. Even if someone offends you, you can quickly forgive, right? Even if someone, abandon you, you don't hold it against them. You know what I mean? Like, because now it's like you was never, hurt in the first place. So the process isn't pretty. It's chaotic. It's layered, right? It's different, it's dimensions to healing, right? There's different processes. But from beginning to end, there's certain things that have to take place in order for it to heal properly. A lot of times we try to heal, but we don't heal properly. So that's why when we experience someone who does something to trigger us, we oftentimes literally fall all the way back into that spiral. It take you all the way back to when you was a little girl and your father abandoned you. Right? It take you all the way back to when you were being violated and people were mishandling you, abusing you, right? It take you back to that moment when you were first had that first heartache, when you got that first breakup, right? It'll take you back. And instead of you going back, God wants you to like when he says that when we repent and we're sincere from our heart and we ask him for forgiveness, that he's just to forgive and cleanse us of all unrighteousness, and he will forgive us and he don't remember it no more. It's like as far as the east is from the west, right? It's in the sea of forgetfulness. Like that's how he wants us to be once we heal completely. Like you don't even remember being wounded. Like I love how Joseph named his children Ephraim and Manasseh because he's like, the Lord caused me to forget. He's like, all the pain, all the suffering, all the betrayal, all the attempts on my life, all the being thrown in jail for nothing I didn't do, right? All the, being a slave, all the jealousy that I experienced from my brothers and all the things, how they set me up, how they lied, how they tore me away from my family, all the things that I went through, all the trauma, all of the abuse, all of the injustice, all of it. The Lord has healed me so much so that he has caused me to forget. Like, I don't remember that. Like, what you talking about? So that's what this podcast is about. It's about becoming holistically whole. Y'all, I can barely talk. Like, I'm just saying, y'all, I don't know. This is so good to me that I just feel like this is an area right here where we just got to clap. Holistically whole, right? It's like being whole in every area of life. Not just in romantic relationships so we can get married. Not just in our relationships with our family or our children. Not just in our friendships. Not just with our money. Not just with ourselves, right? Not just with, in these particular isolated areas. All across the board. God wants us to be made whole. He doesn't want us walking around, a little healed here, a little healed there, still oozing and bleeding there, still, sore over there, still got this wound that's unhealed there. No, he wants us to be made whole. He wants us to be restored in our soul, that we can confidently say, like David, the Lord restores my soul. Why did David need his soul restored? Because he knew what it was like to be rejected. He knew what it was like to have a father one and a mother one. That's why he says in the Psalms, when my mother and father forsake me, you are there. He felt forsaken by his parents. He felt unwanted. He felt abandoned. He was so dismissed and disregarded by his own father that when it came time for Samuel to come to anoint the next king of Israel, and he asked Jesse to bring out all of his sons, surely the next king is here. He called every one of his sons except David. But see, here's the good news. Here's the good news, y'all, that even if you're forgotten by people, even if you are forgotten by your own family, by your own parents, guess what? God will still send someone, and they'll say, no, there has to be another. God will find a way to cause you to be exalted in due season. God will find a way for you to be anointed for whatever the assignment is he has for you. No matter how many people go before you, no matter how many people in your family are more qualified, they look more dignified, they are more distinguished, they're more attractive. Like his brothers was all of that, and they still were not the one. God will find a way to cause you to rise up and for his hand to be upon you, right? But David knew what it was like. He knew what it was like to have his soul broken. He knew what it was like to be wounded in his soul. So he had to say, the Lord restores my soul. So it is possible to be restored, that we shall prosper, be in health as our soul prospers. Our soul being our mind, our will, our emotions, our intellect, right? Our appetites, our soul. We are living beings. We are tripartite, meaning we are spirits and we have a soul and we live in a body, right? Your soul is what you filter everything out of, right? So if your soul is broken, your lens is broken. So everything that you do, everything that you interpret and see, everything that you feel is coming through that soul, right? Your soul is your filter. And when your soul is broken, it's hard for you to really have anything that is healthy, like any kind of relationship, any kind of anything, because your soul is really like where your life, flows from. That's why the Bible says, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. It's like saying, guard your soul. Right? As a man thinketh, so is he. Your mind. So if what you think in your mind, you become, and what's in your heart determines your life, the issues of your life. That's how important it is to have your soul restored and to be healed and to make whole, so that you're not living life out of brokenness, right? So I don't want today's episode to get too long, but we are pivoting. I know that we were talking about finances, and I'll have to, I guess, get a different platform to talk about finances, but this here podcast is going to focus on being holistically whole, redefining our worth, overcoming the burden of past trauma, right? Becoming pure after promiscuity. If that is something you've dealt with or deal with, again, it's not always a choice that we're making. A lot of times our behavior is formulated because of something we experienced, right? You experience being, molested or raped. You experience being violated or sexually abused, right? You experience, some kind of, trauma that causes you to feel like this is the decision I need to make, because now I, don't feel safe with anybody. So I'm not going to, give my heart to a man, but I'll give my body. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm looking for a father, and I think the only way that a guy is going to love me is if I give them my body, right? So we begin to have our perception begins to be altered, right? And our thought process begins to be altered. And instead of us making choices from a healthy place, we begin to make choices from an unhealthy place. It's not intentional. It's by design. That is what trauma does. It rewires our brains, right? And where we wouldn't may have not made certain decisions in life, trauma causes us to then be rerouted, and we end up sometimes making those decisions. But it's not who you are. Your past does not define you. It develops you. You can be pure after promiscuity. Trust and believe. I've been not celibate, y'all. I'm abstinent, meaning I'm abstaining until marriage. Celibate is a whole nother thing. I've taught on this before on the podcast. When you're celibate, that is a vow that a priest makes, meaning that they are not going to have sex, period, like ever. Abstinence is I am abstaining for a period of time, whether that period of time is till marriage, or, maybe you've made a vow of abstinence to, and then you're turning celibate. But just know the difference, because words have power and words frame our world. And a lot of people are saying they're celibate and they wonder why they are not getting married and they wonder why they're not getting a relationship to lead to marriage. It's because, like, if you're saying you're celibate, that is implying that not only are you not going to have sex, but you're not going to be married. Like, you're basically single. Like, you're basically agreeing with singleness. Like how a priest in Catholicism, they'll take a vow of celibacy. And so be careful about your words. I'm not celibate. I'm abstinent. And I've been abstinent for, God willing, over 7 years, a little over 7 years. And it's not to toot my horn or anything like that. It is to say that if God could do it for someone like me, who was surely out in these streets doing all kinds of debauchery and ratchet and lasciviousness and lewdness and every other word that the Bible has for it, right? I was doing it, and I was probably on my way to the pits of hell. And God so graciously was so patient with me, but he brought me out and he delivered me from decades of being addicted to masturbation and pornography. And I wasn't even addicted to sex, but I had a learned behavior. Because here's the power of seed, right? At about 12 or 13 years old, an older girl, she was like 17, told me that when you like a boy, you have sex with them. Now, up until then and after that, my mother never, or no one, like an adult figure in my life, ever talked to me about sex. So I never had anything to, try. Like, I never had nothing that I could compare what she said to, or anything that I could, weigh it against, right? So that was the only sex advice that I received. And that was a seed. So even though I really didn't even understand what she meant when she said that, but the next thing that she did after telling me that was she then took me with her and her boyfriend to her boyfriend's little brother. And while they went to go willingly have sex with each other, because they were dating each other, they left me in the room with this little boy, his 15-year-old brother, who I did not even know, to, I guess, have sex with him. And at that time, I had never had sex with anyone, especially willingly. And it was horrible. And so that seed was sown into me. It was sown into me by word and then in deed, right? Because where I begged him to not, I begged him. And where I asked him and I told him, like, listen, I am a virgin. Like, I don't want to have sex, please. I was not sex crazed. Now, I was masturbating and I was watching porn, but I wasn't sex crazed, right? That door wasn't opened in my life until that moment where that seed was sown. And it began to produce fruit. And fruit was promiscuity. However, if God can take someone like me, who lived a life of being in sexual sin and fornication, and clean me up and bring me to a place where I have chosen to honor him with my body and be abstinent and walk in holiness, because I want to honor him and I want to do it his way. He could do it for you. So I just hope that this encouraged you. I hope this gave you some clarity to know exactly where this podcast is going, so you can really make a choice if this is something you want to come alongside of and go through this journey and become holistically whole as God is leading us down this path of healing. Okay. So I'm sorry we went over a little bit. We're about at 40 minutes. So I'm going to end it here. I thank you guys so much. I hope the podcast blessed you. I will see you guys next time. And again, just remember, I'll say it one more time, that your past does not define you. It develops you, and you are worthy.